Three, two, one. And today is a day of the late night thoughts. And if you have not followed my videos, the late night thoughts is just a podcast like video where I share my thoughts on certain things. And today's topic is about the latest sensor in brand new announced flagship cameras. There is the Sony A1, there is the Nikon Z9, and of course the rumored R1 that you can find the specifications on US canonrumors.com. Of course, those may not be accurate, but it gives you an idea where the camera makers are heading to. And if you have seen all three of them, there is one thing that I want to talk about, which is the sensor themselves. Now, sensors do not evolve much in photography. For many years, we have been using CMOS sensors, and before that, many years of CCD. Recently, we move on to BSI, backside illuminated sensors. This is a very techy thing, but you can think of it sensors that has better dynamic range and better readout because more electronics are now built onto the sensor itself, and you can read the sensor through the wafer. But the latest sensor technology in the latest flagship, the Sony A1, the in development Nikon Z9, and the rumored Canon R1 is trying to fix one more problem in the sensor, and that is readout speed. So what does readout speed actually matter, right? If you have done any form of silent shooting with the electronic shutter in your camera, unless you are using the latest camera such as the A9, the A1 or the R5, even the R5 themselves, you will see something called rolling shutter effect where vertical lines are slanted when you pan quick enough, or when things are moving really quickly, they have a very interesting distortion where they tend to lean forward. Now, this is a normal issue called rolling shutter because the sensor needs to read out line by line. You can imagine a sensor is just rows and rows of pixels that is reading out from the sensor. There is a certain speed required to read them out. And the reason why you have rolling shutter is because by the time the scene has moved, the last shutter and the first shutter has some slight difference. This results in something of a tilt in the image themselves. Now, in the latest sensor technology, or should I say since the A9 by Sony tried to fix it using what we call as a stack sensor technology. But even before that, there was something called the global shutter technology that is used in a few Sony cameras and in a few, I'll say as Canon video cameras. In fact, this is used very heavily, if I'm not wrong, in the industry themselves, but it's also used in video cameras themselves. In fact, Canon has something called the C700 Global Shutter Edition, and you can use this thing called global shutter. So what is a global shutter, or should I say also, what is a stack sensor, right? A global shutter skips all these problems by reading all the data out parallel. So it's no longer line by line, but it's all dumped out together. So you have no rolling shutter effect. While a stack sensor is about pushing the speed of readout, reading it out as fast as possible so that the first pixel to the last pixel in the column, all the rows themselves, are read out in such a way that it doesn't matter anymore. There will probably be no slanted vertical lines. The technology is slightly different, but the aim is the same. It is to remove rolling shutter. But in addition to removing rolling shutter, it also does a few other things, such as increasing flash sync. So in the past, if you try to do electronic shutter and flash, you probably can go maybe 130, 160. Now with the latest A1, I believe you can go to 1200. And I can imagine that Nikon will use a very similar sensor since they announced that it will be a 8K enabled stack sensor technology, and Nikon has always, should I say not always, has historically purchased Sony sensors. Probably the same sensor as the A1 but slightly modified, such as a 45 megapixel version of the A1, because to hit 8K, to hit 8K in terms of video resolution, you probably need a sensor of at least 45 megapixels for a 3:2 ratio. Same as the R5. So for these sensors themselves, they are probably stack sensor technology that reads out really, really quick. The A1 can read out super quick, 5 milliseconds to clear all the lines within a sensor themselves, making any form of vertical lines barely viewable unless you're panning really, really quick, like, I don't know, 600 and then sliding all around. Maybe that's the speed you are looking at. But if not, there will probably be no rolling shutter effect. And you can flash sync at 1 to 200, 1/200 without much issues. And that is a big deal because sensor technology will always improve. Today is 1/200, tomorrow maybe 1/300, the day after maybe 1/500. I can imagine the day that the sensor reads out so fast that flash sync can be same as a leaf shutter, 1/1000. That would drastically change how we shoot photos because firstly, we can treat all our cameras like leaf shutter cameras. We can have infinite flash sync. Secondly, we will have no rolling shutter, so nobody will ever use a mechanical shutter again. We will get true silent shooting modes. Everybody will not have a mechanical shutter, and if it exists, it's really just to protect the sensor. And don't forget, smaller sensors have better advantages in such technology, and they can even read out faster. Means video cameras in the future may not have this tilted line at all in any form of videos. Now the subject can move as fast as you like, the camera can spin as much as you want, and you get this very crisp photo still, as long as your shutter speed is enough. Canon took a slightly different route if you look at the technology written in the R1 rumors. They use something called a global shutter, which, as I said, parallel reads out, and there is no concept of reading line by line in that form of shutter technology. As such, that sensor has very high flash sync because you read out in parallel, you have no problem in that. The old global shutter cameras, as I said, has lower dynamic range. Hopefully, Canon fixes it, and maybe, really maybe, the R1 with a global shutter may actually be true, and that will fix so many problems in terms of readout speed and also in terms of flash sync, because a global shutter camera technically has infinite flash sync. You never need a shutter for such a global shutter camera because you can dump out all the data in really quick time. Now, I'm not going to talk about the other technologies within the rumors themselves in R1 or even in the Z9 because there wasn't much information. But if you just look at the A1, there is a limit to how fast you can go. That's because of the cut speed. If you take a look at an average, every megapixel will result in something like a 1.2 megabyte file. So if you are going at 50 megapixels at 30 frames per second, you are looking at 1.5 gigabytes per second. That is a lot of data, and you have to store them somewhere. It's the limitation of the cards today, and the fastest card you can go, CF Express, barely meets it, and that's assuming the camera can write at perfect speed. So shutter speed, or should I say shooting speed, not shutter speed, is still a limitation, and that's because of our storage technology today. That's why I don't want to delve too deeply, because the Canon rumors one was a bit crazy. At 85 megapixel 20 frames per second will result in something like 1800 megabytes per second or 1.8 gigabytes per second. So there is still a lot of things to probably find out more before I can talk about it more. But all in all, the latest flagship cameras and their flagship sensors will open new grounds in photography. Firstly, pure silent shutter shooting. Secondly, no more any form of tilted lines in the verticals, allowing you to shoot videos that are a lot more better and allow you to do photography purely electronic shutter. Never need to worry about distortion. And if it's in the Canon global shutter type of technology, then you will also get very high flash sync, higher than traditional shutters themselves. I foresee that the sensor technology will improve, and we can probably see even better sync speed in those sensors in the future. And I hope that this sensor technology goes down to the APS-C cameras, and now we have truly silent little shooters that has no physical shutters anymore. They can sync at good speed, shoot at good speed, and can be shoot at silent forever. Then it will all boil down to just how fast can your processor work? How fast can your sensor read out? Everything will be pure electronic. Maybe some of us will miss the shutter sound. Maybe. Because with super fast electronic shutter, who will be using mechanical shutter, right? Maybe some of us will miss the mechanical shutter sound. But I can imagine that silent shooting will be the standard and everybody will be happy with the latest sensor technology that is coming soon. Now, I hope you enjoy this late night thoughts because it's just some random thoughts I have on this sensor that's coming out. It's really exciting to me. I'm a techie at heart. But if you want more discussion with me, just leave down in the comments below. I will reply you. Can ask me anything about Canon, Fuji, or maybe even other brands. I will try to find some information. But if not, till the next time, I'll probably do a review on the light behind me. This is the Aperture 60D. Really nice light. I will talk about it in my next video. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.